everybody. Welcome back into Mining Stock Daily. We're going to take a pause from the round of Beaver Creek Precious Metals Summit interviews we did and try to get back to a little bit of more timely interview with a partner of ours, and that would be Kenorland Minerals and CEO Zach Flood. Kenorland continues to trade on the Venture Exchange with KLD and on the OTCQX with KLDCF. Zach, we missed you last week in Beaver Creek, man.
Yeah, I missed you too, Trevor. Got a new kid and a couple of conferences coming up down the road, so I had to pick my battles in terms of travel here. But I've heard mixed reviews.
Well, congratulations on the new child. I know I've been there a couple of times myself, so I understand how exhausted everybody is at this time. So I appreciate that you can find some time for us here on the podcast. It was kind of a busy day this week when you announced that you have started a new drill campaign at the Frotet project there with your partner Sumitomo. Give us a little bit of an idea of what's entailed for this act.
Yes, so continuation of following the other acts, which every program that we have here has a little bit of higher risk exploration drilling, some moderate step outs, and a fair amount of infill as well to kind of bring everything up to a high enough resolution, for a resource down the road. So we're seeing the same thing here, but I think the big news came out in the first quarter on the back of the drill program that we completed this last winter. We drilled a number of holes to the kind of right directly to the south of the Renault main discovery area. We know that these veins were stacked and dip and sort of plunging, like the whole system's kind of plunging down to the south. And every time we drilled deeper in that direction, we hit new veins. And so on that last drill program, we really swung for the fences. We drilled up to 1,400 meter deep holes. And sure enough, we hit more veins down there. So now we've got R9, R10, and R11 vein sets on the map. And some of these hits were up to 1,000 meters vertical depth, and with very attractive grades and widths. So one of them was 4.45 meters at 12 grams per ton. We did a 400 meter step out to the west on that and hit 1.2 meters at 55.7 grams per ton, all on new veins. So there's no drilling down there. So it opens up a huge amount of potential and blue sky. So this program now, the big kind of the higher risk holes are going to be kind of doing big 100+ meter step outs on those vein sets.
Oh, so last time you and I talked, Zach, I asked you about the likelihood of doing more of those deep holes, and then also kind of the market expectations of if you do put some sort of resource on Renault. And so I think if I may pontificate a little bit, you said 45% of this campaign that has started is going to be towards step outs along the R5, 6, 7, and 8, which you just mentioned. So kind of figure out just how big how big those systems might be. You also mentioned 20% of the program will be allocated towards infill drilling, 50-meter drill spacings, and about 25% is going to be allocated towards more of those broad step outs, expanding those deep vein discoveries. So again, it sounds like we're getting everything we want to as shareholders.
Yeah, I think it's just got to be a balance of advancing the system, in terms of the resource or potential resource that's there. So that resource definition style drilling. And then of course you want to keep growing the footprint. You want to see, a bigger size and more potential. So we're doing that as well. So, every single program since the initial discovery in 2020 has been, or after that initial discovery has been a combination of these things. And the beauty is we're getting really good at it. We're getting a lot more efficient at finding new veins and making these new discoveries because our knowledge of the system has developed to the point where it's almost predictable that, there's going to be additional vein sets, as we go in a certain direction. the system's super well behaved in that sense, in terms of geometry and kind of repetition of these structures. So, it hasn't. It's obviously taken a lot of work to get here. I think there's been, after this program, there'll be about 80,000 meters of drilling in total into the system. So, after that amount, you should have a pretty good idea of what's going on. So yeah, I mean, the only thing we could ask for more is, bigger programs and move it forward faster and faster. But you gotta, take one step at a time with these things. And importantly, I think the biggest challenge was just figuring out what's the geometry, what are the controls on mineralization. Once you have a good grasp of that, then you can really start to ramp up the scale of exploration and resource definition.
What is the spend for this new drill campaign? What are your partners paying?
I think we're spending in total around $4 million. Kenorland will put up 20% of that. So it's not a huge budget. All these programs have been sort of similar size, 10,000 meters ish. We did plan for a much larger program last winter, but we ran into some serious issues with the ice building. It was a really warm season, so that made it quite challenging to get all the rigs on the ice, and there was a lot of issues with just drill contractors. To be honest, I mean, there's not a lot of quality drillers out there, so it's tough to get good drill teams, and so production was slower than we hoped to. But we're still making progress every quarter. I mean, this year in total, I think we'll have drilled 25,000 meters in total.
Okay. What's how long do you take this? Do you take this through the winter? Or at least through, Christmas time? What's the time frame?
No, this project, this phase will only last a month or two. It's not a huge drill program. We got a couple rigs out there, so.
Okay, very good. And I got to ask because, our friend Matt Geiger and I were chatting a couple weeks ago here on the podcast, just kind of curious, well, what is the next steps for Frotet? I mean, with your partner Sumitomo. Have you had any insight or have been enlightened about what they would like to see after this drill campaign? Because I'll keep on asking until we get a little bit of clarity here about, do you just keep drilling until you decide it's time to put a resource on it, or is there talks about advancing some sort of technical report with the deposit here?
Yeah, we've had really kind of brief discussions about that. I don't think it's been really their priority either. It's not our priority. The priority was really understanding what the size of the footprint was, what's the scale here, how big of a system are we dealing with, understanding the controls on the system as well, so we can actually begin to create a geologic model, right? Like without a geologic model, you can't build a resource, right? And so. On a vein system like this, you need a certain amount of drilling at least just to understand, like, okay, which way are these veins trending and how are they dipping and where are they located? And so it's really taken up until the end of last year until we really had a better hold on that geologic model. And then once you have that, then you can really start to apply, more funding towards infill drilling and that resource definition drilling. And then, of course, that's all that is constrained by your geologic model. So I guess to answer your question, we're in that kind of transition period where we've got a really good handle now on the geologic model, the controls. We have enough drilling in some parts of the system that we could, create a resource on those areas. But there's a huge amount of the system that just has really wide space drilling on it, like over 100 meter kind of centers in terms of the pierce points on some of the veins, or even greater. So you have to bring that down to at least 50 meters and ideally kind of 25 meters, to even talk about an inferred resource, right? So
yeah.
So that's what that's definitely around the corner at some point. Right now, that last program, Kenorland, was pushing for the deep holes. Let's see how big this is. We want to swing for the fences. We want to show scale here. That's really important to us. And I think, I don't want to speak for Sumitomo, but obviously, I think they're starting to see enough scale there that they can say, okay, this is worth now putting up the money to really kind of advance it towards resource. You don't want to put the cart before the horse, right? Until you know that this has potential for, millions of ounces of gold, you're not going to go drilling everything on 25-meter centers. So first you got to find out, hey, it's big enough. Now we can infill it. But that'll take time too, right? Like I would say there's probably another year or so of drilling before a resource is really contemplated.
And those deep vein structures that you encountered earlier, you're testing the up dip extension of those. Is that correct? So let me be clear. We're not talking a couple more really deep holes. We're talking shallower holes, testing the up dip of those veins. Correct?
Slightly up dip, yeah. The holes that we drilled initially, and some of this is just constrained by where we can put the drill, right? Like the deep holes we drilled were from the ice. We got well underneath like a lot of the known veins and drilled up to 1,400 meter deep holes. These holes are, we can only access on land right now in the summer. And so even with drilling at, 55-degree angles, we're shooting kind of above where those deeper hits were, but not crazy. Like you're talking 100 meters above the hits on those too. So we're just trying to get a few more pierce points around those new discoveries to get a sense for the geometry of the veins, and we're lucky to hit any gold down there, but it's amazing that we've actually hit the returned economic looking intercepts.
Yeah.
So if we hit more of those economic looking intercepts 100 meters away from the ones we have, then that's amazing, right? We haven't even found really kind of the honey holes in the system too. I think that part comes again when you start to increase the density of drilling. You'll find the pockets of really intense high grade and thicker zones of mineralization.
All right, very good, Zach. Thanks so much for your time. I know it's precious right now. Enjoy it with that newborn of yours. We'll talk to you again soon. I can tell you got a little pep in your step, like you haven't been talking geology or gold discovery for like at least 3 or 4 hours. So you seem really excited. All right.
We'll talk again soon.
Yeah. All right, everybody. That's your update from Kenorland Minerals. Again, trading on the Venture with KLD and on the OTCQX with KLDCF.